Cars get hot fast, and kids can be at risk in temperatures as low as 60.
From the Aetna Studios.
Proud to be the voice of Pittsburgh. 100.1 FM and AM 1020 KDKA.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by O'Reilly Auto Parts.
I'm Stacey Lynn. At least 50 are dead from devastating flash floods that hit central Texas. That number expected to rise as the search continues for the missing, which includes young girls who are at a sleepaway camp in Kerr County. Scott Walden lives in Kerrville and described what he and his wife did when the water was rising.
There's a crepe myrtle tree that we grabbed hold of, and we waited for rescue. I literally pulled out my waterproof phone and started calling people going, hey, get Swiftwater Rescue to come get us, because we are like in extremis. We are in bad shape.
We've seen more and more severe weather in recent years, and climate scientist Andrew Dessler says
we need to accept that we're going to be living in a world with more extreme weather, and we have to be planning for it.
As the planet warms, our atmosphere holds more water, which is creating heavier downpours that can increase flash flooding. The clock is ticking for countries to make new tariff agreements with the U.S. President Trump says higher rate notices are going out.
I signed some letters, and they'll go out on Monday, probably 12.
CBS's Willie James Inman on the progress so far.
So far, the UK, China, and Vietnam have made significant progress in trade talks with the United States. Now, it's unclear which nations President Trump will send those letters to on Monday.
And the president has set a July 9th deadline for deals. That's Wednesday, so there's little time left for negotiations. Elon Musk says he's formed a new political party called the America Party. He threatened he would do it if the president's budget bill became law. Political analyst Larry Sabato.
This won't be good news for President Trump, that's for sure, and will probably anger him. But that has been the norm these days for the Trump-Musk relationship, which has gone from the level of spats to divorce court.
Musk's criticism of the bill was one of the big causes of that major falling out. He says it will bankrupt our country. Last night in Birmingham, England, Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath hit the stage together for the first time in 20 years and played their final gig in front of 40,000 fans.
Look at everybody around here who's in their band shirts. It's almost like a religious congregation that Sabbath started. It's a whole culture of music and a whole culture of people that they're the beginning of, and now we're here to see them take their final bow.
Ozzy, who's 76 and has Parkinson's disease, was seated on a black throne while he sang. He said to the crowd, "Thank you from the bottom of my heart." This is CBS News.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
Hey, listen to this. All I needed was a new starter. Got a great deal on eBay. Did it myself.
Yeah, that's cool. But how about the soft purr of an upgraded exhaust when it fits just right?
For me, it's the little things. Like these new windshield wipers from eBay I installed. From small fixes to big upgrades, eBay has all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Neglected animals and inmates are getting a second chance.
Arizona's Maricopa County Sheriff's Office is cracking down on animal abuse, and in doing so, it's established the Animal Safe Haven Unit, or MASH, utilizing county jail inmates to care for the abused animals while offering inmates a second chance.
Our goal is to keep them out of jail, to give them avenues to go to once they get out.
MASH spokesperson Sergeant Gary Miller.
They get to change the animals' lives, and animals get to change their lives.
Once the animals are healthy, they're adopted out to their forever homes. Stephen Kaufman, CBS News, Prescott, Arizona.
Good news for the not-so-chiseled men. Dad bods are in. According to the Chinese Academy of Sciences, that doughy physique is the body type women find most attractive. The researchers say it has to do with evolution. Body fat is linked to testosterone levels and is therefore an indicator of their reproductive fitness. Stacey Lynn, CBS News.
What I know about courage, I learned from my adoptive mom. She said sometimes you just gotta hold on and know we'll get through this. Mom, we are so high up. Hold my hand.
No, you hold my hand.
Here we go.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more.
I learned patience from my adoptive dad. All he had to say was,
"Hey, you got this. Just breathe." Hey, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
Might have to start a band.
I got it.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
The KDKA AccuWeather forecast is brought to you by JP Roofing and Siding, Pittsburgh's #1 Platinum Preferred Roofing Replacement Contractor. Call 412-829-7711.
Today brings a hot, humid, and sunny end to the long holiday weekend with a high of 92, then clear much of the time tonight with a low of 70. Sun gives way to clouds tomorrow with afternoon showers and a thunderstorm, high 89. With sun and clouds for Tuesday, another thunder shower for some and a high of 84. For AccuWeather, I'm meteorologist LaTroy Thornton, 100.1 FM and AM 1020 KDKA.
Rob Fracks on the voice of Pittsburgh, 100.1 FM and AM 1020 KDKA.
Once again, the lead story from CBS Radio News as we began today. Rescuers scoured a devastated Central Texas landscape of mangled trees, overturned cars, and muck-filled debris Saturday in an increasingly bleak mission to locate survivors, including 27 girls who have not been seen since their camp was slammed with a wall of water in a historic flash flood. The flooding in Kerr County killed at least 43 people, including 15 children, and at least 8 people died in nearby counties. Authorities still have not said how many people were missing beyond the children from Camp Mystic, a Christian summer camp along a river in Kerr County, where most of the dead were recovered. Listen, this is an epic story, a story that is so sad. Thoughts and prayers to everyone in and around that community. But this is something else I was thinking about as I've been following this story over the last couple of days, as the rest of the country has. Look at all the weather-related issues we have been dealing with. It is absolutely phenomenal to think what's happening to the weather pattern in our country. And it makes you start to think, are we going to have to start to rethink how we are protecting the citizenship of this country? You know, one of the things that concerns me with the dwindling issues when it comes to our economy, and there are many, you know, we talk about roads and bridges and that brick and mortar, the foundation of America, which has been crumbling forever because we have not reinvested back in it. And now with this weather situation, and this is just another example of how things are changing, and whatever the reason being, I'm wondering if we don't need to take a closer look at what is happening to the infrastructure around communities, such as what has happened in Texas, and are we prepared for these instant weather changes that can be literally within minutes, if not seconds, devastating and tragic and horrific? I mean, you look at the numbers of those who have lost their life, and they are still trying to figure it out. The search goes on for more missing. It's another wake-up call that America may need to reinvent the wheel when it comes to protecting the citizenship for weather-related issues. I've talked over, the recent weeks about what has happened here just in western Pennsylvania and the tri-state with these horrific storms that we've been experiencing, the multiple tornadoes as well in recent years. And with this story out of Texas, it once again is making me a little concerned. And obviously the fires in California. Are we protected as far as the citizenship from these natural disasters? And if not, what do we need to do to ramp up and to protect the people of this country? But again, We'll continue to follow that story throughout the day with our colleagues at CBS Radio News and, of course, KDKA Radio News. And please keep the folks of Texas and that community in your thoughts and prayers. So I woke up, as I always do, reading my Pittsburgh Post-Gazette app. And 50 years ago, the Vietnam War ended, 1975. And a great story about Pittsburgh and the soldiers and the connection. And I want to read this from the app just to make sure that these numbers get out correctly, because I found them very interesting. Estimated 752 Pittsburghers died in the Vietnam War, which again ended 50 years ago today. Not today, but in this year. It was bloody, 58,200 American casualties, 3,147 of whom came from Pennsylvania. This according to the U.S. Defense Casualty Analysis System. Vietnamese casualties included civilians top 3 million, according to the Encyclopedia Britannica, which tens of thousands more in neighboring Cambodia and Laos. So Vietnam, 50 years ago today. Amazing. When you think about how many years have gone by, it's absolutely astounding. 50 years ago, and today in 2025, we look back to 1975, and obviously those numbers as far as those who lost their life in Pittsburgh. One of the incredible things about the Vietnam War that is still staggering to this day is 58,000 plus came home in flag-draped coffins. But it seems as though just about any community that I have traveled to in my life, including my own, there is history as far as someone who lost their life in the Vietnam War. And when you look at the civilian and casualties with Vietnamese numbers of 3 million, it puts it in perspective that that period in American history was one of the most bloodiest ever. So we need to continue to tell the story and to pay tribute to those who fought bravely. And more importantly, just as it is with the greatest generation, which is pretty much now gone, we need to continue to talk about the Vietnam War. Why? Because let's face it, I mean, these veterans are dying too at an amazing rate day after day as we are now well into this new century. So if we do not tell their stories, who will tell their stories? So it is up to us to continue to tell the stories of the Vietnam era, the Pittsburgh connection, Western Pennsylvania, our country, and I think what the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette did today, and I highly recommend you get a copy of the paper today and read this because it's history that your children and grandchildren need to hear about. Vietnam ended in 1975. Here we are 50 years later. And I really wonder, are we doing enough to pay tribute to the veterans and the people of that time period and that history in our country? Because there were a lot of things happening during that same time. Civil rights, obviously, you know, we had the assassination of Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy on the heels of JFK, who was assassinated in 1963. So let's continue to stay plugged into the history and remember Vietnam 50 years later. All right, we have a lot to get to today. I do want to talk a little bit more about what's happening with Elon Musk and this third party. You know, you got to understand something. This guy's got deep pockets. He's got X, which is a great platform to promote. And it could be Truth Social and X going toe-to-toe. In a much more perfect world, we would hope that they could get along better and they could figure a way to make it work. But if they do not, it'll definitely make very interesting moving forward into that 2028 presidential race. And you have to wonder what's going through the mind of J.D. Vance right now. J.D. Vance thinking he's the heir apparent. He will be the next in line. He's basically been put on that pedestal by the president with that opportunity as vice president to get as much publicity and to get out there and to get FaceTime and have an opportunity to speak and get into the national and international spotlight, which would be prime for him getting to run for president in 2028. But now with Elon Musk pounding on the door with his big money and that big thing that is X, who would his candidate be? Obviously, he wasn't born in this country, but who would you think that he would place in that position to maybe be the party's first candidate? You know, Ross Perot, over 30 years ago, gave it a good run, but he could not do enough because his pockets weren't deep enough. One thing is for sure, no one will ever question the fact of whether or not there is enough money available for Elon to promote. And with what he has with X, formerly known as Twitter, most of it will be no money spent at all. just the idea of a lot of content early and often, and already we haven't even gotten to the midterms. He's made a decision to create a third party in America, and he said he would do so if this big, beautiful bill would pass. So when you look at this big, beautiful bill, why is it that Elon Musk all of a sudden flipped the switch and said, enough? I don't think it was so much about big billionaires getting breaks, but about working class people maybe not getting enough breaks. And those are the people that make it work at Tesla and SpaceX. So interesting stuff. I'd love to hear from you. Let's get going. 866-391-1020. Good morning. It's your Pratt Pack.
The KDKA radio text line is driven by Kenny Ross Auto Group. Find your best deal and Pittsburgh's best warranty at kennyross.com.
News Radio, KDKA, Sports.
Sports brought to you by Coons Market with 8 locations to serve you better. A Pittsburgh tradition. Bucks lost at Seattle last night, 1-0. 2 teams again today, 4:05 first pitch. 93-7 the Fan. Yannick Sinner advanced as he defeated Pedro Martinez in a dominant straight sets performance, showcasing his strong form as he continues his quest for a Wimbledon title. Also advancing yesterday in England, Novak Djokovic. On the women's side, Iga Swiatek advanced to the round of 16 after a commanding performance against Danielle Collins of the U.S. And through 3 rounds of the John Deere Classic, defending champion Davis Thompson closed with a back-to-back birdie on 17 and 18 to seize a one-stroke lead after Saturday's 3rd round of the John Deere Classic in Illinois. Thompson is trying to become the first back-to-back John Deere winner since Steve Stricker took 3 from 2009 and 2011. And NASCAR is racing today in Chicago. More sports at 937thefan.com.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin.
We're definitely going to be late to the concert. I feel like we should be there by now.
I'm just taking a little detour. I got to fill up my gas tank, and I know this place a couple towns over where the gas is cheaper.
Are you serious? We're going to be late for the concert because you're driving out of the way for cheaper gas? Just use Upside.
What's Upside?
Upside is the free cashback app that gets you real cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait, I can get cash back just for buying the gas I need anyway?
Yes, I use it all the time, and I've made around $200. Now pull over so you can download the Upside app before we miss the concert.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code Traffic25 to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime, right to your bank, PayPal, or as a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code Traffic25 for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code Traffic25 for a 25 cents per gallon bonus. That's code Traffic25.
We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
I think my biggest challenge was getting through to him to understand that love is real and you have goals in mind, you have things that want to happen, and I want to help you get there.
Sometimes people tend to shy away from wanting to adopt teenagers because they feel like they've lost so much, but there's still so much to gain.
Just knowing that there's just that other person that cares and loves me out there, it feels great. And they've done so much for me, and I can only be appreciative every single day for just having them in my life.
I think it's been the best decision because I gained a son, and he's the best son ever. If I was down and out, he'd be there.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. A message brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Hey, this is Lisa Stofan. Heard the Mark Patrick weight loss hypnosis hype? Well, I attended because my father stopped smoking with hypnosis. Hypnosis eliminated my desire for soda and fast food, made me want to exercise, and I lost 60 pounds in 6 months. My energy level exploded. I went to another session to deal with some other problem foods, and I lost another 10 pounds. In fact, I brought my husband, and he lost weight, and his cholesterol and blood pressure improved. My friend lost 20 pounds her first 2 months.
Oh my, what are you waiting for? Join Mark Patrick seminars and lose the weight or stop smoking. Early bird special, only $49.99. Hypnosis designed to destroy unwanted cravings, late day eating binges, boredom eating, stress eating. That's right. Seminars Wednesday, July 23rd at the Hilton Garden in Pittsburgh and Cranberry Township. And Thursday, July 24th at the Holiday Inn Express and Suites, Pittsburgh, West and Green Tree. Weight loss seminar, 5:30 p.m. Stop smoking seminar, 8 p.m. Sign up at markpatrickseminars.com. Join Mark Patrick Seminars Lose the Weight, Stop Smoking Early Bird Special, $49.99. Seminars Wednesday, July 23rd, Hilton Garden in Pittsburgh, Granbury in Cranberry Township, or Thursday, July 24th, Holiday Inn Express and Suites, Pittsburgh West and Greentree. Weight loss at 5:30 p.m. Stop Smoking Seminar at 8.
Listen to KDKA Radio on the Odyssey, iHeartRadio, or TuneIn apps.
Where Pittsburgh comes to talk. 100.1 FM and AM 1020. KDKA.
All right, let me just kind of pick up on that PG story that I alluded to earlier about the Vietnam War 50 years later from a Pittsburgh perspective. Excellent. You got to read it today if you get your hands on the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. I highly recommend it. But I really think that, we owe such a great deal of gratitude to the Vietnam War veteran, because let me explain something. When World War II ended, and even when the Korean War ended, there were opportunities for these men who came back from the battlefield. And if it wasn't for many of them having the opportunity to go work, the mental stress and obviously post-traumatic stress syndrome that comes with those who have fought in battle could have been so devastating that the foundation of America could have fallen flat. Depending on what we did in the war, as far as Korean War, that's another thing. We never gave them a chance to finish that war. Even though MacArthur wanted to, Harry Truman basically said, no, because you may remember, MacArthur wanted to push them all the way and to move into China. And Harry Truman said enough is enough because of the backlash and everything coming off the heels of World War II. But they were able to come back and to go back into the mills, go back into manufacturing, carve out a place in America, raise their family, marry their high school sweetheart, have a family, just like the men of World War II did. So it was pretty much business as usual. But the same heroes who fought as an equally cohesive unit representing the United States of America, the Army, the Marines, they came back, and that was the beginning of the end, when manufacturing started to disappear. So many of them who had plans like their father and grandfather before them to go into that mill, marry their high school sweetheart, and basically have a life, they had the rug pulled out from underneath them. And many of them ended up in some situations such as addiction and things of that nature, but kept pushing forward and kept carving out a place for them, their lives, their families, America, and more importantly, they kept the wheel of America and our economy moving forward when they did not have the same opportunity. And the other aspect of this incredible time period was they did not get the ticker tape parades. They did not get the same respect. They did not get the same opportunities that many veterans did who came back from World War II and even Korea. So I think we need to say thank you to the Vietnam veteran as we look back 50 years later, because it was that generation that instead of basically burying their head in the sand and saying, oh, woe was me, the majority kept getting up, moving forward, and creating opportunities and giving us, meaning those baby boomers, the younger version of that era, an opportunity to remember, reflect, and to basically take what they started and take it to the next level to where our country is still upright. So a lot more to that story than just the war. It was the courage of the veteran when they came back from the war. So today, if you get a chance, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, I highly recommend you read it. Vietnam, 50 years later from a Pittsburgh perspective. All right, what do you say we do a little phone work this morning? The phones are jammed, so let's get started and say hi to Ken. Ken, good morning. You're on the air with your Pratt Pack. How are you today?
Hey, pretty good. Yeah, just a couple of things I wanted to address. You were talking about with the FEMA that's going to be dealing with a lot of these natural disasters that are going to be all over the country. I mean, FEMA was being drained for the illegals in many of these major cities, and their funding was down. I think it was rolled into Homeland Security, I think. I'm not sure. You're going to have to quote me on this one, so that the money could be used for disasters. Another thing is Vietnam, 50 years. I have an uncle that was in Vietnam. Sergeant, had 2 Purple Hearts. Some of the stuff he did was, he says it wasn't really legal, but it kept us all alive. And that's a shout out to my uncle.
I know that's war though, Kenny. That's
yeah,
war.
It's bad. It's bad. We had you look 50 years back. I'm looking at 50 years forward. What are we going to look 50 years from now? Well, I'll be gone. But what's history going to show? How many people in this country died of fentanyl and all the stuff that has happened here in home that should not have happened, and that still scares me. But things are slowly starting to get better, and I'm looking at the 4th of July weekend, which I used to see a lot of out-of-state license plates coming into Pennsylvania. People coming home to see their families. I mean, all the time, like a week before, 3 or 4 days before, and Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, all the holidays. And you just don't see that as much now. And that kind of upsets me because that means not a lot of families are traveling as much to here, but maybe more people are leaving going to see them. I don't know. That upsets me. Just being on the roads, I'd like to see those out-of-state plates coming in. I don't see them as much as I used to, which, a little upsetting because it just means our population's going down. Then again, you look at it for my nephew. He's in Ohio right now. He came back and he's trying to get us to move out there. He said so much nicer over there. And he said prices are cheaper, so that may be in the future, 10 years from now or so. As we get older, we want to be around our relatives, I guess. But other than that, I'll let your other people call and talk.
All right, Kenny, you have a good day. Thank you. Let's go to Ron in Michigan. Hey, Ron.
Good morning, Ken. Ken, I'm a Vietnam veteran, 69 to 70, headquarters company A7, 23rd Maintenance Battalion, Chu Lai, Vietnam. I was in the rear with the gear, but, you didn't have to be in the rear with the gear to have traumatic stress syndrome or Agent Orange exposure. My brother was there before me. He was a truck driver. You say a truck driver, a big deal. Yeah, but he didn't tell me stories about Vietnam. I had to learn myself. But one day he did tell me he came home high at night, and I said, Jim, what happened over here? And he told me, just related one story. He said, the sergeant used to love to drive in my truck. He says, I said, why, Jim? He said, when there was an ambush and there was flaming wrecks in front of us, I would drive right through them. And he said, that's how I survived. And, so you can imagine, just a truck driver, but ambushed. And then you got to drive over a flaming truck with your buddies in front of it. So, it doesn't have to be in combat to get PTSD. Now, as far as Vietnam, our involvement in Vietnam goes back to 1945. We signed a peace treaty with Japan in August. 3 months later, we were shipping former Nazi SS, Waffen-SS, who were POWs of the French. We were transporting them on our American transports, American crews. We were shipping them POWs from France to Vietnam to start the Vietnam War all over again. The enlisted men on those American ships signed protests saying, we do not want to ship Nazis over there to start another war. But that did not go down. So our involvement in 3 million killed in Vietnam, that had probably doubled up to probably 6 million with our involvement from 1945. Now, as far as people say, Vietnam veterans were spit on. Back in the Vietnam War period, a soldier could fly anywhere on standby, go to any airport, and if there was an open seat, you would fly. And I always wore my uniforms. I loved to fly home from my base to back to Chicago. And I was anti-war when I went to Vietnam. I did not have to go to Vietnam. I had a 4-year sheet metal apprenticeship, but I pushed my sheet metal apprenticeship aside, and I went and I got drafted because I had to see the Vietnam War for myself. And I was anti-war. And when they say people spit at you in the airport, I was looking for the anti-war guys to spit at me in the airport.
All right, listen, I got to get to the news. Great stuff. I'm glad that this kind of piqued some interest because, this is what we need to do. This is what we need to do. We need to continue to talk about it and tell the stories because of people like Ron and others. And it's so true. Just to be in that setting, you don't have to be in the thick of things or in the battle, but post-traumatic stress definitely is a part of any war. And whether you're in the battle or not, you have to deal with things that are going on around you when you come back from war. And that's why the opportunity to not go to work and put their mind somewhere else was another reason why we should be thankful because they continue to make America and the economy move forward. So they had a fight after the fight. All right, we'll take more calls on the other side. I got to get to the news in just a little bit. It's your Pratt Pack. It is a Sunday as we continue our holiday weekend, Independence Day holiday weekend at KDKA.
At California Psychics, we know some people can't read the career warning signs, like your boss still not knowing your name.
You, Tina, Lisa, Sheila, whatever. Get that report to me by lunch, okay? It's Carrie, ma'am. Just get it done, Terry.
So talk to California Psychics and receive the career guidance you need. We only connect you with the very best, so guarantee if your reading isn't life-changing, it's free. California Psychics. Visit CaliforniaPsychics.com today for limited time offers.
Honey, I found the perfect place for my parents and us.
Where?
St. Barnabas. For us, the Woodlands Carriage Home Community. And for my parents, condominium-style living at the Village. My folks will love the Village. There's an indoor mall with shops, restaurants, and more. And we can relax, knowing they're safe and secure.
That's what I plan to do when we move to St. Barnabas. Relax.
Call 724-444-5568 or visit stbarnabascommunities.com.
Hearing the news every day is one thing. Hearing it hit home is something altogether different. That's the difference you hear every day on KDKA Radio. We go beyond the benign headlines and bring the news to life. Your life. So stay here and hear the news and what a difference it makes. 100.1 FM and AM 1020. KDKA.
From the Aetna Studios.
Proud to be the voice of Pittsburgh. 100.1 FM and AM 1020 KDKA.
CBS News Brief. Catastrophic flooding in central Texas caused at least 50 deaths. This man lives in Kerrville. He and his wife held onto a tree in their yard as they tried to get help.
I literally pulled out my waterproof phone and started calling people, hey, get Swiftwater Rescue to come get us because we are like in extremis. We are in bad shape.
President Trump says dozens of countries need to make a trade deal with the U.S. by July 9th or risk higher tariffs.
I signed some letters and they'll go out on Monday, probably 12.
Wednesday's deadline leaves